When the plane landed at JFK International Airport in New York, I checked my wristwatch, 3:20 a.m. I was supposed to be attending the closing gala of New York Fashion Week, but instead, I had silently returned home. "Madam, shall we proceed directly to the estate?" asked Marcus, my chauffeur, discreetly taking my suitcase. I nodded briefly, pulling the Hermes silk scarf higher to cover half my face. I had cut short a trip that was intended to last 3 more days. There was no special reason, just Damon Vance's casual call the day before, telling me to have fun, no need to rush back. It had set off an alarm inside me. 5 years of marriage. I knew my husband too well. The more considerate and generous he appeared, the clearer it was that something was wrong. The sky was beginning to lighten when the black Mercedes-Benz Escalade entered the exclusive gated community in Greenwich, Connecticut. I signaled Marcus to stop at the entrance and pulled the suitcase toward the house myself. I wanted to give Damon a little surprise. The door opened silently when I used my fingerprint. I slipped off my Manolo Blahnik heels and held them in my hand as I stepped barefoot onto the cold marble floor. A shiver ran from my feet to the nape of my neck. The master bedroom was empty, the bed perfectly made, as if no one had slept in it. I frowned, pulled out my phone, and accessed the house's security camera system. Damon had left at 10 p.m. the night before, and hadn't returned. Just as I was about to call him, I heard a murmur of voices coming from the second floor. I froze. I climbed the stairs, holding my breath, moving toward the source of the sound. It came from the room at the end of the hall, the one we had reserved for a future baby. After 5 years, it was still empty. Now, its door was ajar, a sliver of light escaping the crack. "My brother said this room gets the most sunlight, and he insisted I give it to you, Ashley." It was the voice of my sister-in-law, Chloe Vance. Her tone was sickeningly sweet, repulsive. "Really, a place as special as this, I'm sure I can live here," replied a fragile female voice with a clearly feigned shyness. "Of course you can. It's lucky for my brother to be with someone so young and beautiful like you, but it's lucky for you too." Chloe's laugh was like a stab to the heart. "Come, look at the closet. Damon prepared all this especially for you. Do you like it? Hermes? Chanel?" I clenched my fists so hard that my nails dug into my palms. I pushed the door open slightly more. The scene that unfolded before me chilled my blood. Chloe was tenderly embracing a girl who looked no older than 20, showing her a closet full of luxury goods. And the shirt the girl was wearing was, shockingly, a Givenchy that Damon had told me he'd lost last month. I felt a pounding in my temples and a ringing in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. With trembling hands, I took out my phone, silenced it, and began recording. "Chloe, what if your sister-in-law suddenly returns?" the girl Ashley asked, biting her lip. Her eyes, however, gleamed with greed. "Ha, that sterile hen," Chloe sneered. "What place does she have in this family? She's just a walking ATM. Don't worry, she's in Paris spending money right now. And even if she came back, do you think she doesn't know who runs this house?" I bit my lower lip until I tasted blood. For 5 years, I had loved Chloe like a sister. When she graduated, I used all my contacts to get her a $180,000 a year position at Stellar Holdings. For her wedding, I gave her an apartment and a car. "And now," Chloe continued triumphantly, "if it weren't for the Caldwell Industries money, do you think my brother would have noticed her? Always with those airs of a cultured rich girl, she's unbearable. But you are different, Ashley. Young, beautiful, sweet. My brother says that as soon as you get pregnant, he'll divorce her." Everything went black. If I hadn't leaned against the wall, I would have collapsed. Damon Vance, what a piece of work you were. And I, Olivia Caldwell, how blind I had been. Just as I was about to burst into the room, my phone vibrated. I quickly retreated to a corner of the hallway. The screen read, "Dad." I took a deep breath and answered, "Olivia, where are you?" My father's voice was unusually grave. "At home, Dad," I whispered. "Perfect," he paused. "We've detected an anomalous capital flow at Vance Construction lately. Damon is diverting large sums of money from the company to offshore accounts. Keep an eye on him." I managed a bitter smile as I looked at the partially open door. "Dad, I don't think surveillance will be necessary anymore." I hung up, and after a final glance at the room, I slipped out of the house without a sound. Once in the car, an uncontrollable tremor seized my body. Marcus looked at me through the rearview mirror, concerned. "Madam, you look very unwell. To the office, please?" I said, clenching my teeth. I took a compact mirror from my handbag and touched up my pale face. "And please call the director of my branch at Chase Private Client. I urgently need to freeze several cards." 6 Amex Black cards, all issued with the Caldwell Industries credit limit, the same ones that allowed my in-laws to spend nearly $1 million a year. Damon, Chloe, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and even a useless uncle in the family had one each. It was time to retrieve them. The operation on the mobile banking app took only a few minutes. When the message "Lock successful" appeared on the screen, a frosty smile spread across my lips. This was only the beginning. "Damon, Chloe, you are going to pay the price for your betrayal." As soon as I finished, the phone rang. It was Chloe. I took a deep breath and answered the call. "Olivia, what the hell is going on? My card isn't working. What an embarrassment I just went through." Her voice was shrill and unpleasant. "It must be a system update," I said with a calm I didn't feel. "I'll look into it." "Well, hurry up. I'm meeting my friends and—" I hung up before she finished. Immediately afterward, Damon called. Seeing my husband's name flash on the screen churned my stomach. I rejected the call directly. "Marcus," I said, looking up at the chauffeur, "let's go to Stellar Holdings headquarters. I need to see Mr. Harrison." Chloe Vance's $180,000 job was numbered. Sitting on the leather sofa in the Stellar Holdings president's office, I drummed my fingers on the armrest. Mr. Harrison, a former subordinate of my father, looked at me with a hurried expression. "Miss Caldwell, Miss Vance is your sister-in-law. Isn't doing this a bit," he said, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses and wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Mr. Harrison," I said, taking a sip of tea, my voice soft but with undeniable force. "Do you remember who solved that problem your son had with drugs a few years ago in California?" Mr. Harrison's face turned ashen. "Understood," he said, and picked up the intercom. "Miss Rios, notify Human Resources. Prepare Chloe Vance's termination papers. Have the severance package ready today." Putting down the cup, a faint smile touched my lips. "Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I heard Stellar Holdings is having trouble with the land acquisitions for the Hudson Gateway project. My father is a golf partner of the Secretary of Commerce." Harrison's eyes sparkled. He nodded repeatedly. "Miss Caldwell, don't worry. I will ensure this matter is handled impeccably." Leaving the building, the sunlight momentarily blinded me. I had 17 missed calls, 5 from Damon, 3 from my mother-in-law, and the rest from Chloe. I called my best friend, Allison Hayes. "Do you have time? Let's grab a drink." 30 minutes later, at the bar of the Plaza Hotel, Allison arrived, her 4-inch Christian Louboutin heels clicking emphatically. Dressed in a chic black suit, she drew the gaze of every man in the room. "Olivia Caldwell? So you returned early from Paris?" she asked, arching an eyebrow as soon as she sat down. "Don't tell me Damon is up to his old tricks." Stirring a rose in my teacup, I recounted, without omitting a detail, what I had seen that morning. Allison swore, causing the next table to turn. She ignored them. "Chloe, that ingrate. After how well you've treated her, and she dares to conspire with her brother to maintain a mistress." "That's not all," I said, opening an email on my phone and passing it to her. "This was just sent to me by a private investigator. The girl's name is Ashley Reed. She's 22 and studying drama at NYU Tisch. And guess who introduced her to Damon?" Allison quickly read the file, her eyes widening. "Chloe." "Exactly," I replied with a cold smile. "And not only that, Chloe used my contacts to place Ashley as an intern at a production company, a subsidiary of Caldwell Industries." "This crosses the line. Is she insane?" Allison slammed the table furiously. "What are you going to do?" I applied hand cream sparingly. "First, the in-laws' black cards are canceled. Second," I looked at my watch. "Chloe should have received her termination letter by now." Allison whistled. "Well done, but your in-laws won't stand idly by." "Let them try," I said, raising my cup. "By the way, Allison, investigate the Vance construction accounts. Dad says Damon has been diverting a lot of money overseas." Allison's expression turned serious. I already had it on my radar. The cash flow for several VC projects is highly suspicious. I think Damon is embezzling company funds. A tremor ran through my fingers, and several drops of tea splashed onto the table. I knew Damon was ungrateful, but stealing from his own family business? As we spoke, my phone rang again. My mother-in-law. I took a deep breath and answered. Olivia, what is happening? Your father and I were in Milan buying furniture, and suddenly the card doesn't work. Her tone conveyed evident displeasure. Oh, mother-in-law, they must be updating the bank's system. You know these things happen, I said in an innocent voice. Don't worry, I'll check it tomorrow. But this sofa is a limited edition world exclusive, she complained. I interrupted her. Mother-in-law, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later. Pay with another card, all right? Without giving her time to respond, I hung up firmly. Allison gave me a thumbs up. What a good actress, Olivia. I offered a bitter smile. In 5 years of marriage, if I had learned anything, it was how to act. The phone vibrated again. Damon. Allison and I exchanged a look. I put it on speaker. Olivia, what the hell are you doing? Damon's shout echoed through the phone. Chloe just got fired for no reason. This was your doing, wasn't it? Damon, darling, what are you talking about? Chloe was fired? But how? Don't play dumb, he yelled even louder. Harrison said it was an order from above. Who else but Caldwell Industries can get an executive from Stellar Holdings fired with a single call? I covered my mouth and coughed to hide my laughter. Honey, I truly don't know anything. I just got off the plane. I'm still jet-lagged. You, Damon's voice faltered and softened. Where are you? We need to talk. Having tea with Allison. I looked at Allison, who was red from suppressing laughter. Why don't you come up? We're at the plaza. I'm on my way, he said, and hung up. Allison finally burst into laughter. My God, Olivia, I didn't know you were such a good actress. The Academy should give you an Oscar. I shook my head, my smile disappearing. He's not coming to talk. He's coming to see if I'm guilty. Now what? Allison asked. I looked out the window. The panoramic view of Manhattan stretched out below us, a sea of cars and bright lights. Now, we let things heat up a bit. Chloe losing her job is just the appetizer. We would see what my dear in-law's next move would be. 20 minutes later, as expected, Damon didn't show up. Instead, Chloe posted something on Instagram. Asterisk time puts everyone in their place. May some people not be so arrogant, or karma will take care of them. Asterisk. The photo was a black and white selfie with red eyes, as if she had just cried. I liked the post with a frozen smile. Allison rolled her eyes. That girl isn't very bright, provoking you in this situation. She's been spoiled since she was little, I said, putting down my phone. In that family, they always prioritized the son, but they always indulged her. And what are you going to do about that, Ashley? Allison asked. My gaze hardened. For now, I'll let her rot. If Damon set up a closet just for her, let's see how long he can maintain her. Suddenly, Allison lowered her voice. Olivia, I need to tell you something. If Damon is really embezzling funds, this stops being a personal problem. If the scandal erupts, it could splash back on Caldwell Industries. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I mean, Allison said seriously, you have to prepare for the worst, gather evidence and protect yourself. A guy like Damon, if cornered, is capable of anything. I nodded. An idea occurred to me. By the way, thoroughly investigate Ashley Reed. I have a feeling this isn't so simple. Allison checked her watch. I have to go back to the firm. A client is waiting. Are you going home tonight? Of course, I said, managing a smile. After all, it's my house. After saying goodbye to Allison, I went directly to my father's company. On the top floor of the Caldwell Industries headquarters, my father was receiving reports from his executives. Seeing me enter, he interrupted the meeting. Dad, I need us to investigate the cash flow of Vance Construction, I said bluntly. My father frowned. What's wrong? I told him what happened that morning and my suspicions about Damon's embezzlement. His expression hardened moment by moment until he finally slammed the table. Damn it, he roared. I knew from the beginning that boy was unreliable, but you insisted. Dad, I interrupted him. Now is not the time for that. The important thing is to find out exactly how much he diverted and where. My father used the intercom to call his chief financial officer and head of risk management to his office. While we waited, he handed me a sheaf of papers. Take a look at this. It was the bank statement for Vance Construction from the last 3 months. Several large transfers stood out. The total amounted to nearly $15 million. Where did this money go? I asked. To a shell company in the Cayman Islands, my father said disdainfully. Damon thought he was being discreet, but he forgot I have trusted people at the bank. I held my breath. $15 million. This was no longer a moral issue. It was a criminal offense. Olivia, my father said, looking at me solemnly. What do you plan to do? I closed the file. My voice sounded strangely calm. First, gather all the evidence, and then, I looked him in the eyes, make them pay for it. When I left the Caldwell Industries building, it was already dark. Sitting in the car, seeing the dozens of missed calls from Damon and the insulting messages from Chloe, I felt a deep exhaustion. Marcus observed me, concerned, through the rearview mirror. Madam, shall we go straight home? I closed my eyes. Yes. Oh, and tomorrow, call a locksmith. I want to change all the locks on the house. All of them, madam? Marcus asked, surprised. Yes, all of them, I said, opening my eyes, including those on Damon and Chloe's rooms. When the car entered the community, I saw the lights of the house on. Damon had returned. I took a deep breath, composed my expression, and walked in. Olivia! Damon jumped up from the sofa, his face pale. You're finally back. What's going on? I asked, feigning surprise. Did something happen? Are you still playing dumb? He lunged toward me. What happened with Chloe was your doing, and the cards too. I sidestepped him and placed my handbag on the console naturally. Damon, I truly don't know what you're talking about. I've been with Allison, and then in Dad's office talking about projects the whole time. Damon grabbed my wrist roughly. Stop the nonsense. Do you think I don't know what you're plotting? I yanked my hand free. Damon, watch your words, I said coldly. You're in my house. Your house? He scoffed. For 5 years, everything has been yours. The house is yours, the car is yours, even my sister's job depends on your family. A wave of rage surged through me, but I suppressed it. And it's with the money from my house that you maintain your mistress? Damon's face changed. What nonsense are you talking about? Ashley Reed, 22 years old, drama student. I recited clearly. Do you want me to continue? Damon's face went from panic to fury. You've been investigating me? Investigating you? Please, I don't have that much free time. It was your adorable sister who was showing that girl your love nest this morning, and I caught her in the act. Damon stammered, diverting his gaze. Olivia, listen to me. It's a misunderstanding. Enough, I said, raising a hand to stop him. I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow. As I turned to go upstairs, Damon yelled at my back. Olivia, don't cross the line. Do you think Caldwell Industries is such a big deal? I, Damon Vance, can live perfectly well without your family. Without turning around, I simply waved my hand. Then try it. I entered the bedroom, bolted the door, and collapsed onto the floor. Finally, the tears I had held back all day flowed. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Allison. Asterisk. I've got it. Ashley Reed is not clean. She is connected to several important businessmen. It seems she has someone behind her. I'll tell you tomorrow. Asterisk. I wiped my tears and replied, asterisk agreed. Asterisk. The night before my father-in-law's 60th birthday, I stood in front of the walk-in closet, running my fingers over the row of couture dresses. I paused at a red Valentino with a deep V-neck, a red as intense as blood, as fire. My phone vibrated. A message from Allison. Asterisk confirmed. Ashley Reed is also attending the party. Chloe arranged it. She says Damon is bringing her as his goddaughter. Asterisk. I smiled coldly and replied, asterisk perfect. Asterisk. I put down the phone and took out the red dress, trying it on. 5 years ago, at my wedding, my mother-in-law told me red was too striking, improper for a daughter-in-law of a good family. Tomorrow, I intended to dazzle. The party was held in the grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria. I arrived deliberately 20 minutes late. When the staff opened the imposing golden doors, I entered elegantly, wearing diamond-encrusted Manolo Blahnik heels. All eyes turned to me. "Olivia, dear, you came." My mother-in-law approached with a forced smile. Her gaze, however, fixed on my fiery red dress, and a flicker of distaste crossed her face. "Mother-in-law, father-in-law, may you have many more," I said, smiling as I handed them a gift box. Inside was a Rolex Daytona valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars, purchased, of course, with his black card. My father-in-law accepted the gift with a strained smile. "Well, your presence is enough." I scanned the room. Soon I located Damon and Chloe in a corner. Next to them, of course, was Ashley Reed. She was wearing a white lace dress, feigning to be an innocent university student, but on her wrist gleamed a limited edition Cartier bracelet. I remembered seeing the receipt in Damon's pocket last month. "And this young lady is?" I asked, approaching them as if I knew nothing. Damon's body visibly tensed. Chloe quickly stepped in front of Ashley. "Oh, she's a cousin of a college friend. Her name is Ashley." "Ashley, this is my sister-in-law, Olivia." Ashley timidly extended her hand. "Nice to meet you, Olivia. Chloe has told me so much about you." I didn't shake her hand. I simply smiled slightly. "Oh, really? And what did she tell you?" Ashley's hand remained suspended awkwardly in the air, and her face turned tomato red. Chloe hastened to intervene. "She admires you very much, Olivia. She says you're very elegant and dress beautifully." "Oh," I arched an eyebrow. "She has good taste." Damon finally couldn't take it anymore. "Olivia, do you think it's appropriate to come dressed like this to my father's birthday?" I looked at my red dress, then at the admiring glances of the other guests, and let out a chuckle. "Why, don't you like it? Mrs. Sterling just told me it highlights my skin tone." Damon was about to reply, but Chloe stopped him. "Brother, everyone is looking at us." I elegantly took a glass of champagne and headed toward where the corporate heavyweights were seated. They were all old friends of my father and important partners of my husband's family. "Mr. Sterling, Mr. Roy, long time no see." I raised my glass in greeting. "Olivia, you get more beautiful every day," Mr. Sterling said, smiling. "How is your father?" "Very well, thank you. Busy as always." I took a sip of champagne. "By the way, I heard Vance Construction is having problems with the Hudson Gateway project." The businessmen exchanged a look. Mr. Roy lowered his voice. "Olivia, these things are better left unsaid. VC's financial situation hasn't been good lately, and several banks have them in their sights." I feigned surprise. "Really? Damon hasn't told me anything." "You, Olivia." Mr. Sterling shook his head. "You are too innocent." At that moment, Chloe approached with Ashley. "Mr. Sterling, Mr. Roy, good evening." Chloe greeted them kindly, then pushed Ashley forward. "Ashley was very eager to meet you." Ashley instantly raised her glass. "I've heard so much about you. Allow me to toast the masters." I observed her performance, laughing inwardly. The girl knew how to move in these circles. No wonder Damon fell for her. After several rounds of drinks, the atmosphere relaxed. I saw Chloe whisper something in Ashley's ear. She nodded, grabbed a glass of red wine, and approached me. "Olivia," Ashley's voice was sickeningly sweet. "I toast to you. Thank you for the invitation." I saw the red wine in her hand and knew it. Just as she was about to clink her glass against mine, her wrist sharply tilted, and the entire contents spilled onto my red dress. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," Ashley cried, feigning clumsiness as she tried to wipe me. But in her eyes, a flash of triumph shone. The room fell silent. All eyes were on us. Damon and Chloe rushed over, barely concealing their satisfaction. "Olivia, don't worry. Ashley didn't do it on purpose," Damon said, though his gaze was challenging. I looked at the wine stain on my dress, slowly raised my head, and managed a perfect smile. "It's nothing." Just when everyone expected me to make a scene, a waiter passed by Ashley and accidentally stumbled into her. The 3 glasses of red wine on his tray spilled over the girl's pristine white dress. "Ah!" Ashley shrieked stridently. She frantically shook her dress. "Hey, don't you have eyes? Do you know how much this dress costs?" The room went mute. The pure virginal swan from a moment ago had transformed into a commoner yelling at the waiter. My mother-in-law strode over. "What is this scandal, Olivia? How can you humiliate a guest like this?" I blinked innocently. "Mother-in-law, you saw it yourself. It was the waiter's accident." "You?" Damon's face was livid. Unfazed, I pulled my phone from my handbag and played an audio file. Chloe's voice resonated clearly throughout the room. Asterisk. "Ha, that sterile hen. What place does she have in this family? She's just a walking ATM. My brother says that as soon as you get pregnant, he'll divorce her." Asterisk. There was a general murmur. Chloe turned deathly pale. Damon exploded. "Olivia, how dare you?" "Dare what?" I cut him off coldly. "Expose your family's dirty laundry?" I turned to my father-in-law. "Father-in-law, happy birthday. Do you like my gift?" My father-in-law's face was contorted. The glass he held fell to the floor, shattering with a metallic clink. "Olivia!" Damon yelled, lunging toward me with his hand raised. I stood still. Just before his hand reached my face, 2 bodyguards dressed in black appeared out of nowhere and grabbed his wrist. "Mr. Vance, please behave," one of them said in a glacial voice. I adjusted my dress and gave a slight bow to the guests. "Excuse me for ruining the evening. I must withdraw." As I left, I heard my mother-in-law's hysterical shouts and my father-in-law's curses. Damon, restrained by the bodyguards, tried to follow me, but I was already getting into the car. "Home, madam?" Marcus asked. "No, take me to Allison's." I removed the stained jacket and pulled an envelope from beneath the seat. "The show has only just begun." As the car left the Waldorf, I saw Ashley at the entrance, trying to flag down a taxi, looking pathetic. Her white dress was now an ugly pinkish color. I lowered the window, gave her a slight smile, and mouthed 2 words, "Goodbye, beautiful." Her expression was as if she had seen a ghost. At Allison's apartment, I handed her the envelope. "The Vance Construction financial reports from the last 3 years. Take a look." Allison skimmed it, frowning deeper and deeper. "Olivia, this isn't just embezzlement. Damon has been falsifying accounts, inflating project costs. We're talking about a sum of at least $38 million. I held my breath. $38 million. He was insane. "And the worst part," Allison said, pointing to a page, "is that the money didn't go into his personal account, but to an investment firm called Argos Investments." Argos Investments. The name sounded familiar. "Wait, isn't that Victor Sterling's company?" Allison nodded. "The same. Victor Sterling, the real estate magnate in Manhattan, my father's eternal rival. If Damon and Sterling are colluding—" My phone rang suddenly. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Mrs. Vance?" It was an unknown female voice. "This is Ashley Reed. Can we talk?" I arched an eyebrow. "About what?" About Mr. Vance and Mr. Sterling." Her voice trembled. "I have confidential information, but I need protection." Allison and I exchanged a look. "Come to Allison's firm right now. I'll text you the address. Don't tell anyone." After hanging up, Allison frowned. "Do you trust her?" I shook my head. "No, but since she offered, let's see what she has to say." 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Allison checked the peephole to confirm it was Ashley before opening. Far from her glamorous appearance at the party, Ashley's face was pale, and her eyes were swollen. She had been crying. "Olivia," she said, and as soon as she entered, she knelt. "I'm sorry. I didn't help her up." "Speak. What is happening?" Between sobs, Ashley confessed, "I didn't approach Mr. Vance of my own free will. Mr. Sterling ordered me to. He wanted me to obtain trade secrets from Vance Construction and Caldwell Industries." My heart sank. "Go on." "Mr. Sterling promised me $2 million and to pay for my studies abroad if I succeeded," she said, wiping her tears. "But today, I realized he won't keep his promise. After the party, he sent people to warn me to keep quiet. Or else—" "Or else what?" Allison pressed her. "Or else he would ruin my career and hurt my family." Ashley burst into tears again. "Olivia, I know I did wrong. Please help me." I stared at her for a long time and suddenly asked, "Does Damon know you're Sterling's operative?" Ashley shook her head. "No, Mr. Sterling said Damon was just a pawn, that he would discard him after using him." A pawn. A shiver ran through me. What if Sterling's real target wasn't the Vance family but our Caldwell Industries? Allison, I stood up. Find someone to protect Ashley. I have to see my father immediately. Ashley grabbed my dress. Olivia, there's something else. Mr. Vance and Mr. Sterling are planning to move some important documents next week. I think they have to do with the Hudson Gateway project. The Hudson Gateway project, the largest joint real estate venture between Caldwell Industries and Vance Construction, valued at $2 billion. I leaned down and looked her in the eyes. Are you sure? She nodded desperately. Mr. Vance said it one night when he was drunk. He said that this time he would deliver a heavy blow to Caldwell Industries. I straightened up. I felt as if the blood had frozen in my veins. Damon had not only betrayed me, but he also wanted to destroy my family. Allison, prepare the legal documents. My voice was glacial. It's time to teach Damon Vance what happens when you play with fire. The press conference was set for 10 a.m. I arrived at 7 a.m. Allison was already there with her team, preparing the room. On the giant screen, a presentation I had prepared was repeating. How is it? I walked over and offered Allison a coffee. She rubbed her reddened eyes. All ready, but... She hesitated for a moment. Do you really want to go this far? Once this is public, there will be no turning back. I took a sip of coffee. The bitter taste spread across my tongue. From the moment Chloe brought Ashley into my house, there was no turning back. Allison sighed and handed me a newspaper. The headline read, Asterisk, not from a business family? 5 years of infertility lead to husband's infidelity. Caldwell Industries heiress treated for mental instability. Asterisk. That's the in-laws, I said with a cold smile. Allison showed me several social media posts. Trending topics included asterisk Olivia Caldwell, infertile asterisk crazy heiress asterisk spurned revenge asterisk. Chloe had paid several influencers to spread the rumors across the net. My fingers trembled slightly reading the venomous comments. My husband's family wanted to completely destroy my reputation. Don't worry, Allison said, patting my shoulder. After the press conference, these rumors will fade. I shook my head. I'm not worried about that. What I wonder is why Damon is in such a hurry. The logical thing would be for him to try to calm me down. He hasn't squeezed all the resources from Caldwell Industries yet. Allison frowned. Are you suggesting someone is pulling the strings? I put down the coffee cup. Victor Sterling isn't one to get involved in other people's business without a good reason. Just then, my phone rang. Damon's name appeared on the screen. I answered and put it on speaker. Olivia. Damon's voice was surprisingly soft. Can we talk? About what? My tone was neutral. I know you're preparing a press conference. He paused. Don't do it. Dirty laundry is washed at home. Let's resolve it privately. You want to? I arched an eyebrow. Wow, now you care about dirty laundry. You weren't thinking about that when you were in bed with your mistress, were you? Olivia. His voice became almost pleading. I was wrong. I admit it. Give me a chance. Let's talk in person. Allison and I exchanged a look. Fine. After the press conference, at 2 p.m., at the Street Regis restaurant. After hanging up, Allison looked at me incredulously. Are you really going to meet him? Of course, I smiled coldly. The fact that he's so desperate to stop the press conference shows we're on the right track. At 9:30 a.m., the media began to arrive. I retreated to the makeup room and asked the stylist for very subtle makeup. Mrs. Vance, do you want a strong look? The stylist asked cautiously. No, I want to look vulnerable. The stylist was perplexed but did as I asked. I closed my eyes. At 10 o'clock sharp, I ascended the podium in a sober white suit. Flashes instantly erupted. I tilted my head slightly, projecting an image of fragility and strength simultaneously. Thank you to all the media for your time. My voice was soft. Many rumors have been circulating about my husband and me lately. Today, I am here to set the record straight. I turned on the giant screen. I displayed a medical report from the Mayo Clinic. Some say I'm infertile. This is my gynecological report, which proves everything is perfectly normal. Next, I played an audio recording. It was Damon's sweet words to Ashley. Asterisk honey, As soon as I take control of the Hudson Gateway project, I'll divorce that old woman. Asterisk. There was a murmur in the room. Journalists fired off photos non-stop. As for me being mentally unstable, I offered a bitter smile and showed more photos. They were images of Damon and Ashley on vacation in the Maldives. The date coincided with the days I was caring for my mother-in-law in the hospital after an operation. Finally, I pulled out my secret weapon, the irregular financial reports of Vance Construction, clear evidence of Damon's fund embezzlement. As Damon Vance's wife, I didn't want to make these things public. My voice trembled. But since his family has spread rumors to defame me, I've had no choice but to defend myself. Journalists' questions rained down. I answered a few selectively and then made a deep bow. I'm sorry, I am very emotionally affected. We will conclude the session for today. Leaving the room, Allison grabbed my arm. That was Oscar-worthy. Public opinion online has already turned. I wiped the tears from my eyes, which were actually drops from an eye lubricant I had discreetly applied. VC's stock dropped 5% at the open. And right after your press conference it plummeted to the floor limit, Allison said excitedly. I nodded. This is just the first step. At 2 p.m., I arrived punctually at the Street Regis restaurant. Damon was already waiting for me. He looked quite haggard, his eyes bloodshot. Olivia, he stood up as he saw me. I gestured for him to sit down. I sat across from him and ordered a tea. The press conference, was it necessary to go that far? He said, rubbing his hands. I smiled coldly. Compared to the rumors your family spread online, I merely limited myself to exposing the facts. I didn't do that, he quickly defended himself. It was Chloe. She's immature. I've already scolded her. Ah, of course, I said, stirring my tea calmly. And the article about the sterile millionaire daughter-in-law for 5 years wasn't your doing either. Damon's face changed. Olivia, we've been married for 5 years. Are you going to believe others over me? Believe you? I almost laughed. Damon, did you remember our 5 years of marriage when you were in bed with your mistress? His face went from panic to pallor. Suddenly, he took my hand. Olivia, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Give me a chance. I'll leave Ashley right now. I pulled my hand away. It's too late. It's not too late, he said urgently. We can start over. I'll do whatever you want. I looked him in the eyes. I want 51% of Vance Construction shares. Can you give me that? Damon froze. That's impossible. Then there's nothing more to talk about. I stood up. Wait, he stopped me. Olivia, what do you really want? I leaned down and whispered in his ear. I want you to lose everything, to have your reputation ruined. With that, I turned and left, leaving him petrified in his chair. Leaving the restaurant, Allison's car was waiting. How did it go? She asked as soon as she saw me. I buckled my seatbelt, just as I expected. He tried to offer a false apology to gauge my intentions. Allison handed me a document. Breaking news. Damon was at Victor Sterling's office this morning. He was there for 2 hours. I opened the file. They were photos from a detective. Damon furtively entering the Argos Investments building and leaving 2 hours later, looking distressed. Antecedent report for the two of them. Find out what they talked about. I'm already on it, Allison said, starting the car. Oh, there's an update on Ashley. What update? Last night she went to your in-laws' estate and had a big fight with Chloe. Allison frowned. The strange thing is that they weren't arguing about Damon, but because apparently some money hadn't been deposited for her. My heart skipped a beat. Money. The $2 million Sterling promised her? Probably, Allison nodded. And the strangest part is that after the fight, Ashley received a call and rushed off. No one has heard from her since. I frowned. She disappeared? It's not certain yet, Allison said, turning the wheel. I've already sent people to look for her in her usual places. Just then, my phone rang. It was my father. Olivia, where are you? His voice was very grave. In Allison's car. Why? Come home immediately. My father paused. Victor Sterling just called. He wanted to talk about your situation with Damon. A shiver ran down my spine. What did he say? He said, my father's voice was filled with anger. That he can mediate your conflict. The condition is that we surrender 30% of our stake in the Hudson Gateway project to him. Indeed, Sterling was after the project. Dad, do not agree under any circumstances. I gripped the phone tightly. Damon's embezzlement must be related to him. I know, my father said disdainfully. Sterling underestimates Caldwell Industries too much. Come home and we'll discuss it in detail. I hung up and told Allison, let's go to my father's house. The Caldwell Industries president's mansion in Greenwich occupied a 20,000 square foot estate. My father had built it on land he bought at auction 10 years ago. When the car entered the gate, I noticed that the number of security guards had doubled. My father was waiting for me in his study. He had several documents spread across the table. Olivia, he went straight to the point. We tracked the money flow Damon sent to Sterling, and we found something interesting. I leaned in to look. They were complex capital flow diagrams. This money, after passing through 3 intermediaries, my father pointed to a line, ends up in an offshore account, and the account holder, he flipped to the last page, is Damon himself. My eyes widened. He's been laundering money. Not only that, my father said gravely, I suspect he is conspiring with Sterling to divert funds from Caldwell Industries. Suddenly, an idea crossed my mind. Dad, Ashley Reed could be the key. Ashley Reed? He frowned. You mean his mistress? I nodded. She told me Sterling sent her to get close to Damon. If Damon and Sterling are partners, why bother sending her? My father looked thoughtful. It's possible that at first, Damon didn't know Sterling's full plan and was just a pawn being used. Just then, Allison rushed in. Bad news. Vance Construction just issued a statement saying Olivia's accusations are defamatory and they will take legal action. Going down fighting, my father said disdainfully. And that's not all. Allison handed my father her phone. Damon just gave an interview to CNBC, claiming Olivia has mental issues, that she's under treatment, and everything she said at the press conference is a delusion. I grabbed the phone. On the screen, Damon, impeccably dressed, wore a sorrowful expression. Asterisk, I love my wife very much, but since she suffered a miscarriage she fell into depression and has refused treatment. Asterisk. A miscarriage. The rage made me tremble. I had never been pregnant. My father took the phone, read it, and turned livid. That damn animal. Allison's phone suddenly rang. She answered, listened for a few words, and her expression changed. What? Are you sure? Okay, keep monitoring. She hung up and turned to us. They found Ashley. She's at Mount Sinai Hospital. Someone beat her up. The severity of her injuries is not yet known. My father and I looked at each other. Who did it? It's not clear, but before losing consciousness, she kept repeating 2 words. Allison took a deep breath. The papers. The papers. I remembered what Ashley had told me, that Damon and Sterling planned to move some important documents. Dad, I have to go see her. I stood up. If she really knows something crucial. My father nodded. I'll put people at the hospital to protect her. Allison, get the best doctors. Leaving the study, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Olivia. It was Chloe, but her voice sounded much duller than usual. It looks like you won. I smiled coldly. At least I haven't lost. My brother just signed some papers. Chloe's voice had a strange, mocking laugh. All your assets in your name, properties, shares, funds, will be frozen. The law says the assets of a mentally ill person are fully administered by their spouse. My heart sank. You falsified a psychiatric report on me. You are clever but too late, Chloe laughed. Oh, by the way, it seems your father's company accounting books also have some issues. Mr. Sterling is having coffee right now with his friends at the SEC. The call suddenly cut off. I stood there, feeling a glacial coldness in my hands and feet. What's wrong? Allison asked worriedly. I mechanically repeated Chloe's words. My father, hearing them, pounded the desk with his fist. Sterling, old fox. Dad, our company's accounts are clean, I said. They are, my father said firmly. But if they want to find fault, they always find a way. I took a deep breath. What do we do now? My father looked thoughtful. We will divide. Allison, you accompany Olivia to the hospital to see Ashley. I have to visit some old friends. Dad, be careful, I said worriedly. My father patted my shoulder. Don't worry, I've been in this world for 40 years. I've seen everything. Leaving the mansion, I saw that Marcus was not driving the usual Mercedes, but a discreet Audi. It's for security, Allison explained. They might have put a tail on us. On the way to the hospital, my phone kept receiving notifications. VC's statement was already taking effect on social media, and public opinion was beginning to divide. Some supported me, but others started doubting my mental state. Don't look at it, Allison said, taking my phone away. It's all bots paid to create atmosphere. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. This war was much more complicated and dangerous than I had imagined. Damon, Sterling, even Chloe, everyone had their own plans. But one thing was clear. They had truly enraged me. Allison, I opened my eyes. Contact the press. I will call another press conference tomorrow. Another one? Allison was surprised. The situation is not favorable to us right now. Precisely. I smiled coldly. Since they say I'm crazy, I will show them what true madness is. As the car stopped at the entrance of the hospital, I received a message from my father. Asterisk. Confirmed that the deputy director of the SEC and Sterling were college classmates. Be careful. Asterisk. I deleted the message and pulled up the collar of my coat. This war had only just begun. Outside the private hospitalization area of Mount Sinai, 2 bodyguards stopped us. Mrs. Vance, Miss Hayes, one said in a low voice. Miss Reed has woken up, but her condition is not good. I nodded and went inside. Ashley was semi-reclined in bed. Her face was swollen, and she had a bruise at the corner of her lips. Seeing me, her pupils contracted, and she instinctively shrank under the sheets. Who hit you? I asked bluntly. Ashley bit her lip silently. Her gaze shifted toward the security camera in the corner. Allison understood, and took out her phone. Inspector Garcia, could you turn off the camera in room 3 of the private area? Yes, right away. A few seconds later, the red light on the camera went out. Now you can talk, right? I dragged a chair and sat down. Suddenly, Ashley's eyes filled with tears. It was Mr. Sterling's people. They said I hadn't done my job well, that I tried to betray him. I narrowed my eyes. Did you go looking for him? She nodded, then shook her head. I went for my money. He wasn't paying me the $2 million he promised. And you blackmailed him? Allison said incisively. Ashley's face paled further. I just told him that if he didn't pay me, I would tell you everything, she said, looking at me timidly. Tell me what? I leaned forward. Mr. Sterling and Mr. Vance's plan, the Hudson Gateway project, The door suddenly opened. A doctor in a white coat and 2 nurses entered. Time for the rounds, the doctor said expressionlessly. Companions, please step out. I frowned. We just arrived. It's hospital policy. The doctor approached the bed, looked at the history, and picked up a syringe from a cart. Ashley began to resist violently. No, I don't want it. Don't give me anything. Olivia, help me. Before I could react, Allison stepped in. One moment. What is wrong with the patient that requires an injection? A sedative, the doctor said coldly. The patient is very agitated. I'm her lawyer. Allison showed her bar association card. You have no right to forcibly medicate her without a clear diagnosis. The doctor seemed disconcerted but insisted. It's a medical prescription. Which doctor prescribed it? Allison didn't back down. While they argued, Ashley grabbed my wrist and quickly wrote 3 numbers on my palm. Asterisk 528 asterisk. Before I could understand, the doctor abruptly pushed Allison aside and jammed the needle into Ashley's arm. A few seconds later, her gaze blurred and her hand released mine weakly. What department are you from? I asked harshly. May I see your IDs? The doctor didn't answer. He turned and hurried out with the nurses. How strange, Allison said, and ran out after them. She returned shortly, looking worried. They've disappeared. There's no one in the entire hallway. I immediately called the bodyguards. They're watching the elevators and stairs. Stop a doctor and 2 nurses. I hung up and looked at Ashley, now asleep, clenching my fists. 528. What did it mean? A password? A room number? My phone vibrated. A message from my father. Asterisk. Check social media. Asterisk. I opened Twitter. The top trending topic was asterisk. Ashley denounces Olivia asterisk. Clicking on it, a long statement published from Ashley's verified account appeared. The publication time was 30 minutes ago. It described her as a naive university student manipulated by my husband and claimed that I had threatened, extorted, and even sent people to beat her up. It attached photos of her in the hospital bed and of various bruises. What a pack of lies! Allison couldn't contain herself. She didn't write this. She's unconscious. I kept reading. The comments section was chaos. Fake accounts mass-published comments like "times how dark the elite are," times and times, "hang in there, Ashley asterisk." Several influencers had echoed the news. Interactions were in the hundreds of thousands. "It's Chloe's doing," I said with a cold smile. She bribed someone at the hospital to sedate Ashley and publish this from her account. Just then, my phone rang again. It was my father-in-law. "Olivia." His voice was surprisingly kind. "I just heard about the internet. It was a childish stunt by Chloe. I think we should sit down and talk calmly." I almost laughed. "Father-in-law, now you want to talk to me? We are family, aren't we?" He laughed uncomfortably. "Look, I'm organizing a lunch tomorrow. Bring your father, and we'll discuss everything." "No need," I said coldly. "If you have something to say, say it now." There was silence for several seconds. When he spoke again, his tone was lower. "Olivia, Vance Construction is going through a tough time. Shares have fallen a lot, and the banks are demanding we repay the loans." "Aha!" A frosty smile appeared on my lips. "So I wanted to ask you," he said with difficulty, "if you could talk to your father about advancing us about $15 million. We'll put up VC shares as collateral." $15 million. Wow, he wasn't playing small. "Father-in-law," I drew out my voice on purpose, "have you forgotten that this morning VC announced they would sue me for defamation, and Damon publicly said I have mental issues?" "That was a misunderstanding," he rushed to say. "I've already scolded Damon. I told him to withdraw the statement. Olivia, for the 5 years we've been family." "It's too late," I interrupted him. "By the way, why don't you investigate who those $15 million Damon sent to the Cayman Islands in the last 6 months went to?" With that, I hung up. Allison looked at me with wide eyes. "You're going all out, huh?" I shook my head. "It's not me. The Vance family is destroying itself." I opened the bank app on my phone and showed her a statement. "Look, the money Damon embezzled ended up in a shell company controlled by Sterling." "So, Sterling is using Damon to empty VC," Allison realized. "And not only that," I smiled coldly, "I think his real target is the Hudson Gateway project." Just then, one of the bodyguards called. They hadn't found the 3 fake medical personnel. I ordered him to reinforce security and not allow anyone near Ashley. Leaving the hospital, a horde of journalists was already waiting for us. Dozens of cameras blocked the entrance. We had to force our way through with the help of the bodyguards to reach the car, but the flashes kept penetrating the tinted windows. "To your apartment, madam?" Marcus asked. I shook my head. "To the office." At the Caldwell Industries headquarters, my father was in an emergency meeting with the executives. Seeing me enter, he paused. "The situation is not good." He handed me some papers. "Sterling has started leaking doubts about Caldwell Industries' financial health to the press. Our shares have already dropped 7% today." I opened the file. It was an article from a financial newspaper. The headline, "Asterisk Suspicions of Accounting Fraud at Caldwell Industries. The Mystery of the Hudson Gateway Funds." Asterisk, the audacity. I trembled with rage. "We invested $1 billion of our own funds in that project. Every cent is justified. The problem," my father said gravely, "is that Sterling has bought off the deputy director of the SEC. They will send an inspection team to the company tomorrow." Allison held her breath. "This is an all-out attack." I clenched my fists. "Dad, we have to counterattack." "How?" my father said with a bitter smile. "Sterling has many contacts in politics and finance." "With Ashley Reed," I interrupted him. "She is the key witness." Before losing consciousness, she wrote 3 numbers on my hand. 528. My father frowned. What does that mean? I don't know. I shook my head. It could be a password or a room number. Wait a minute, Allison intervened suddenly. Damon has a permanent suite reserved at the Street Regis. The number is 528. My father and I looked at each other. Investigate it. Allison left to make a call to find out more about Suite 528. I turned on the computer and went onto social media. Ashley's accusation was the most commented topic. We can't let the narrative continue this way. I gritted my teeth. Allison, contact the main media. I will call a press conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. Are you sure? Allison asked worriedly. Right now, public opinion is not on our side. Precisely. I smiled coldly. Since they say I threatened Ashley, I'll show them who is truly threatening whom. I opened my phone's gallery and pulled up the photos the detective had sent me. A clear image of Damon and Ashley kissing in a hotel hallway. The date was 3 months ago, when he had told me he was on a business trip. This will be enough. I moved to the next image, showing more evidence. Captures from the hotel security cameras, records of their stays, even bank statements of Damon's transfers to Ashley. Allison whistled. More than enough. But isn't it too much to expose all this? Did they think it was too much when they falsified my psychiatric report to try to control my assets? My father placed a hand on my shoulder. Do what you have to do. You have my support. That night, when I returned to my apartment, it was very late. I had just gotten out of the shower when Allison called. I found it! Her voice sounded excited. Suite 528 is indeed Damon's. And according to a hotel employee, he was there late last night and took a safe box with him. My heart sank. A safe box? Yes, and most importantly, she lowered her voice, Sterling's secretary was also in that room this afternoon. I instantly understood Ashley's message. There was evidence in Suite 528. Allison, send someone to retrieve the contents of that safe box. Now. I'm on it, Allison said, but we'll probably need a court order. There's no time. I looked at the clock. It was 1 a.m. Sterling will send the inspectors tomorrow. We have to get that evidence tonight. I hung up, got dressed, and prepared to go out. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? Through the peephole, I saw Damon. His face was grim. Olivia, I know you're there. He banged hard on the door. Open up. We need to talk. I made no sound. I silently backed away and called security. Olivia, Damon began kicking the door. Do you think I don't know you're inside? Open up. The door trembled with every blow. I gripped the phone tightly and retreated toward the balcony, ready to scream at any moment. Suddenly, with a crash, the door flew off its hinges. Damon ran in, his eyes bloodshot. Behind him were 2 burly men. Search, he shouted. Her phone, her computer, find everything. The 2 men began to ransack the apartment. Damon lunged at me and grabbed my wrist. Where is the evidence? What evidence? I feigned calm. Don't play dumb. He squeezed harder, and the pain made me see stars. That slut Ashley told you, didn't she? Tell me, where are the things from 528? So it was true. The safe box contained the evidence of their crimes. I don't know what you're talking about. I tried to pull free. This is breaking and entering. I've already called the police. Called? He scoffed. Who's going to believe a crazy woman? With that, he raised his hand to hit me. In that critical moment, 4 bodyguards burst into the apartment and subdued Damon and his men in the blink of an eye. Madam, are you all right? The head of security asked. I shook my head and straightened my clothes. I walked up to Damon, immobilized on the floor, and knelt down. Damon, I said calmly, we're getting divorced. His eyes widened. You dare? And not only that, I continued. Tomorrow at the press conference, I will reveal the evidence of how you and Sterling conspired to embezzle funds and defraud Caldwell Industries. Damon's face turned ashen. You don't have them. Oh, by the way. I stood up and looked down at him. Ashley Reed woke up. She agreed to testify in court. Who do you think the judge will believe? A woman you nearly beat to death? Or the husband who falsified his wife's psychiatric report? Damon's face was pale as wax. Suddenly, he started struggling. Olivia, I was wrong. It was all Sterling's idea. He threatened me. Enough. I turned to the bodyguards. "Call the police. Breaking and entering an attempted assault." As they took him away, Damon kept pleading for forgiveness hysterically. I was left alone in my ruined apartment, feeling profound exhaustion. The phone rang. It was Allison. "Olivia, we got the safe box from 528. What was inside?" Inside was the secret contract between Damon and Sterling, and the fake accounting books of VC. I let out a long sigh of relief. Thank goodness. "And there's something bigger," Allison said excitedly. "There were also records of Sterling's bribes to the deputy director of the SEC. My eyes gleamed. With that, it was more than enough to prove they had tried to frame Caldwell Industries. "Tomorrow's press conference," Allison laughed. "It's going to be epic." I hung up and looked at the nighttime view of Manhattan. For the first time, I felt victory within reach. "Damon, Sterling, did you think you could cover the sun with a finger? Tomorrow, I'll show you what it means to reap what you sow." 4 days after the press conference, Damon's lawyer contacted me to negotiate an amicable divorce. An amicable divorce? I laughed coldly. I suppose he wasn't thinking about friendship when he forced his way into my house with his thugs. On the other end of the line, Robert Hughes, the Vance family's veteran lawyer, sounded uncomfortable. "Mrs. Vance, Mr. Vance insists it was a misunderstanding." "Mr. Hughes," I interrupted him. "Tell Mr. Vance that we will meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Hayes & Associates law firm. If he doesn't show up, he'll lose his chance." I hung up and looked at Allison sitting across from me. "Is everything ready?" Allison slid a folder across the table. "Everything here. Evidence of embezzlement, evidence of assault, evidence of document forgery. Enough for him to spend a decade in jail." I opened the folder. Inside were the documents from the safe box in Suite 528. The secret contract between Damon and Sterling, VC's secondary accounting books, and even a detailed plan to trap Caldwell Industries. "And Ashley?" I asked. "She's under protection." Allison frowned. "But her emotional state is unstable. She keeps saying someone wants to kill her." I nodded. After I published the evidence of Damon and Ashley's infidelity at the press conference, public opinion took a complete turn. VC's shares plummeted for 3 consecutive days, and banks began to withdraw their credit lines. The Vance family was on the verge of bankruptcy. "Oh, by the way," Allison suddenly said, "any movement from Sterling?" I shook my head. Dead silence. And that worries me. After his bribes to the deputy director of the SEC were revealed, the commission immediately suspended the inspection of our company, and the deputy director was dismissed, but Sterling acts as if nothing happened. It's too abnormal. That old fox won't stand idly by. Allison frowned. "That's why we have to hurry." I closed the folder. "Tomorrow we'll sign the divorce agreement, and immediately afterward we'll initiate the process against Sterling." The next day, I arrived deliberately 20 minutes late to the law firm. When I entered the meeting room, Damon and his lawyer were already waiting. Damon looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot and his suit wrinkled, but seeing me, he forced a scornful smile. "Olivia, you finally show up." He checked his watch. "On time. I thought you wouldn't dare come." I ignored him and sat across from him. Allison, my lawyer, went straight to the point. Following Mrs. Vance's instructions, the divorce agreement includes the following points. First, all real estate acquired during the marriage will become the exclusive property of Mrs. Vance. "One moment," Damon interrupted her. "Based on what?" "Based on Article 98 of the family law," Allison said calmly, "and the fact that you are the guilty party in the marriage dissolution." Damon let out a scornful laugh. He took a sheaf of papers from his briefcase and threw them onto the table. "Read this first." I picked it up. It was a psychiatric evaluation report. My name was on it, and the diagnosis was paranoid schizophrenia. "Mr. Hughes," Damon said triumphantly, "according to the law, who should administer the assets of a mentally ill person? The spouse or a direct family member as guardian?" "The spouse," Robert Hughes said, adjusting his glasses without daring to look at me. Damon leaned back in his chair with a victorious smile. "Olivia, for old time's sake, if you renounce all your assets, I won't commit you to a psychiatric facility." I watched his performance in silence. When he finished, I pulled a USB drive from my handbag and gave it to Allison. She connected it to the computer, and a series of bank statements appeared on the projector. On the 15th of March 2021, Mr. Vance embezzled $15 million from Vance Construction and transferred it to an account in the Cayman Islands, Allison read. Damon's face changed. On the 8th of May 2021, he embezzled another $28 million. Total, $43 million. That's false. Damon jumped up. Allison continued flipping pages. Here we also have the secret contract signed by you and Mr. Sterling, stipulating the profit sharing of the Hudson Gateway project. Enough. Damon overturned the cup of coffee in front of him, the brown liquid splashed onto his white shirt. What the hell do you want, Olivia? I looked him straight in the eyes. It's simple. First, sign the divorce agreement and divide the assets according to my terms. Second, cooperate with our investigation against Sterling. And third, I paused, issue a public apology to my father and me. Damon's face cycled through all the colors of the rainbow. This is blackmail. No, I smiled. It's an opportunity. Otherwise, I looked at Allison. Allison pulled out another document. According to Article 25.3 of the Penal Code, the misappropriation of assets while performing administrative functions is punishable by imprisonment from 1 to 6 years. Given the amount, we would be talking about the maximum sentence. Damon slumped into the chair. Mr. Vance, his lawyer said, wiping his sweat, I think you should seriously consider Mrs. Vance's proposal. There was a tense silence. Damon kept his head down, his fists clenched. I saw a vein throbbing in his temple. Finally, he lifted his head. His eyes were full of a resentment I had never seen before. Olivia, you are a viper. I smiled slightly. Like father, like daughter. The signing of the divorce agreement proceeded smoothly. Damon renounced almost all his assets, keeping only his Porsche and some personal effects. In exchange, I promised not to press criminal charges for the embezzlement. Oh, by the way, I said before leaving, Ashley Reed asked me to give you a message. She says she still has some interesting things saved. If you bother her or her family again, she won't hesitate to call another press conference. Damon's face turned ashen. That slut is still alive? I arched an eyebrow. What do you mean? Nothing. Nothing. He quickly diverted his gaze and rushed out of the room. Seeing his back fleeing, a suspicion grew in me. Why did Damon think Ashley might not be alive? Allison. I turned to my friend. Where is Ashley now? In a safe place. She lowered her voice. After the press conference, she was terrified. She said men in black were following her. I looked thoughtful. I have to see her. It's too dangerous, Allison objected. Right now, she's a sitting duck. Anyone who gets close to her is in danger. Precisely. I stood up. I think she knows much more than she's told us. That afternoon, thanks to Allison's arrangements, I arrived at an isolated villa outside New York. Ashley was staying in a basement suite with 4 bodyguards protecting her 24 hours a day. Seeing me, she shrank into a corner of the sofa like a startled rabbit. Olivia. I saw that her left arm was in a sling and she still had bruises on her face. Who hit you? I asked bluntly. Ashley bit her lip in silence. It wasn't Damon, was it? I insisted. She snapped her head up, surprise in her eyes. It was Sterling's people, I affirmed. Tears welled up in her eyes. They said I was no longer useful, that I hadn't gotten the key documents for the Hudson Gateway project. And that's why you stole the documents from Damon's safe box? I pressed her. She nodded, then shook her head. I just wanted to protect myself. Sterling promised me money and studies, but I knew too much. He wasn't going to let me go just like that. I sat across from her. Ashley, be honest. Who are you really? She remained silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I am a Juilliard student, yes. But I'm also an industrial spy trained by Sterling. An industrial spy. Allison and I exchanged a look. Sterling recruits pretty girls and trains them to get close to specific targets, Ashley said softly. Damon was just one of them. What Sterling really wanted was the key data on Caldwell Industries' Hudson Gateway project. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Because beneath the project lands, a rare earth deposit has been discovered. She lifted her head. According to Sterling, the value of that deposit is in the tens of billions of dollars, but it's information that hasn't been made public yet. Allison held her breath. That's why Sterling tried to sink Caldwell Industries for the deposit. Ashley nodded. Damon didn't know at first. He thought Sterling just wanted a cut of the project profits. When he found out the truth, it was too late to back out. So, that night, I suddenly understood. The people who broke into my house weren't just Damon's men, but Sterling's too. Probably, Ashley said, trembling. Sterling knew I had stolen the papers and would do anything to get them back. I stood up and began pacing the room. The situation was much more complex than I had imagined. It wasn't a simple case of divorce due to infidelity, but a meticulously planned corporate conspiracy. Ashley, I stopped. Would you be willing to testify in court? She shook her head, terrified. No, Sterling will kill me. If you don't testify, I said calmly, Sterling and Damon will get away with it, and sooner or later, they will find you. Tears welled up in her eyes again. But I can protect you, I interrupted her. You and your family. I will send you abroad. A new identity, a new life. She lifted her head, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Really? Only if you testify. Otherwise. I left the phrase hanging in the air. Ashley understood the implicit threat. If she didn't testify, no one would protect her. I'll think about it, she said softly. Agreed. I stood up. But you don't have much time. Sterling won't stand idly by. Leaving the safe house, Allison immediately called. Reinforce Ashley's security. 3 shifts. No one gets near her. She hung up and turned to me. Do you really believe her? I shook my head. Not entirely, but right now she's our only leverage. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Olivia. It was a deep, gravelly male voice. Don't cross the line. A chill ran through me. Victor Sterling. He chuckled. You're clever, but clever people usually don't live long. Is that a threat? I laughed coldly. The evidence that was published is only the tip of the iceberg. That evidence? It doesn't even scratch the surface. His voice was nonchalant. But your father, the mine accident in West Virginia 20 years ago, what would happen if the world found out? My fingers trembled. What nonsense are you talking about? Ask your father. With that, Sterling hung up. I stood there, the phone glued to my ear, my heart pounding 1,000 beats per minute. The mine accident in West Virginia. My father had never talked to me about it. What's wrong? Allison asked worriedly. I shook my head. Take me to my father's house. In the mansion, my father listened to my account, and his face turned ashen. How does he know? He muttered. Dad, what exactly happened? I grabbed his trembling hand. My father sighed deeply and told me the story of the covered-up mine accident 20 years ago. Back then, he had just started his business career and was a partner in a mine in West Virginia. A gas explosion killed 7 miners. His partner bribed local officials to cover up the accident. My father didn't know until afterward, but he chose to remain silent. It was a criminal offense, he said with pain. If it became known, I would face at least 7 years in prison. I felt as if I had been thrown into a pool of icy water. Sterling had our weak point. Olivia, my father suddenly said, grabbing my hand, you have to stop the investigation against Sterling right now. The divorce is already signed. The Vance family has paid their price. Let's leave it here. But, no buts, he yelled at me, something he rarely did. I can't let you put yourself in danger. I remained silent. He was right. If I continued, I could ruin his life. But letting Sterling and Damon get away with it was unbearable. As we stood in that tense silence, the butler rushed in. Sir, the hospital is calling. Your father-in-law has suffered a stroke. He is undergoing emergency surgery. My father and I froze. My father-in-law, though over 60, had always been in good health. How could this have happened? Let's go, my father said, standing up immediately. In the hospital's VIP hallway, Chloe was crying hysterically, and my mother-in-law sat on a bench, her gaze lost. Seeing us, Chloe ran toward me to hit me. It's your fault. You did this to my father. My father stopped her. Chloe, calm down. How can I calm down? She shouted hysterically. My father collapsed when he saw the news from the press conference. The doctor says if he survives, he might be paralyzed. Olivia, are you happy now? I stood there, unable to say anything. I hated the Vance family, but I had never wished for my father-in-law's death. Just then, the operating room door opened, and a doctor came out. The patient is out of danger, but the next 48 hours are critical. My mother-in-law finally reacted. She staggered up and suddenly knelt before me. Olivia, please, forgive us. My husband is like this, and Damon is on the verge of madness. Please, be lenient and don't go any further. I rushed to lift her up. Mother-in-law, please don't do this. She wouldn't let go of me. I know Damon was wrong. I admit it. Look, he already signed the divorce. Please be merciful and don't push it. I didn't know how to respond. At that moment, we heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. It was Damon. Seeing me, he stopped dead in his tracks. Mom, how is Dad? He rushed to his mother's side. He's stable, she said, wiping her tears. Damon, quick, apologize to Olivia. Damon turned to me. His gaze was complex. Finally, he bowed his head. Olivia, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Please, forgive my family. Seeing the arrogant Damon Vance bowing his head and apologizing should have made me feel satisfied, but instead, I felt a strange bitterness. Just as I was about to speak, his phone rang. He saw who was calling and his expression subtly changed. I have to take this. He went to a corner of the hallway, turning his back on us, and spoke softly. Instinctively, I followed him silently. Mr. Sterling, I did what you asked. She's here, yes, I understand, but what you promised me, his voice was extremely low. Don't worry, I'll make sure she stops investigating. The lawyers already have the counterclaim ready. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. Damon's apology was a sham. He was still conspiring with Sterling to counterattack. I returned to my place in silence. My last doubt had dissipated. Damon, I gave you a chance. Mother-in-law. I turned to her. Take good care of father-in-law. I'll visit again. As soon as I left the hospital, I called Allison. Prepare Ashley to testify, and also prepare the lawsuit against Sterling and Damon for corporate fraud. Are you sure? Allison asked, surprised. What about your father? I'll handle that, I said firmly. This time, I'll make sure they don't get back up. 4 days after my father-in-law's admission, Vance Construction called an emergency board meeting. As a shareholder with a 15% stake, I attended without prior notice. The moment I opened the door to the boardroom, all eyes were on me. Damon, sitting in the chairman's seat, was livid and nearly broke the pen he held. Olivia, he ground out, you shouldn't be here. I smiled slightly and sat in an empty seat. Mr. Vance, according to the company bylaws, any shareholder with more than 10% stake has the right to attend all meetings. I currently own 15% of VC. Should I be here or not? There was a murmur in the room. Damon jumped up. Impossible! Where did you get those shares? I didn't answer. I looked toward the door. My father's special assistant, Mr. Hill, entered and placed a folder on the table. Gentlemen of the board, yesterday Caldwell Industries acquired the entirety of Chase Private Client's stake in Vance Construction, a total of 15%. This is the share certificate. Damon snatched the papers. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. No, it can't be. The director of Chase had promised to sell them to you, hadn't he? I continued. Too bad I offered a higher price. In fact, I had to pay 30% above market value to wrest them from Sterling, but it was worth it because it was the largest individual stake in VC after the Vance families. I addressed the directors. Gentlemen, given the recent plunge in VC shares, the withdrawal of bank loans, and the liquidity crisis, I propose the immediate removal of Damon Vance as chairman and CEO, and that an independent director assume the position on an interim basis. Nonsense, Damon slammed the table. I built VC with my own hands. You are mistaken, I corrected calmly. Your father built VC, and you nearly drove it to ruin. I opened a file in front of me. In the last 3 years, you have embezzled $20 million, falsified accounts, and inflated project costs. This has led the company to— Stop it, Damon interrupted me hysterically. Those are all slanders. Whether they are slanders or not, the audit will tell. I looked at the other directors. Gentlemen, let's vote. The result of the vote was predictable. Damon was dismissed on the spot. 2 security guards escorted him out of the room. Through the glass, I saw him kick the hallway wall like a madman before he was led away. Mrs. Vance, asked the newly appointed interim chairman, Mr. Fuentes, cautiously, any advice for overcoming this crisis? I closed the file. 2 things. First, Caldwell Industries is willing to offer a short-term loan of $30 million with an 8% annual interest rate. Second, my father is willing to acquire an additional 10% of VC's new shares in his personal capacity. The room murmured again. If both conditions were met, Caldwell Industries would hold at least 25% of VC, becoming the de facto majority shareholder. That would require a general shareholders meeting, Mr. Fuentes said, wiping his sweat. Of course. I stood up. I await your good news. Leaving the VC building, the early summer sun blinded me. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Allison. Asterisk. Ashley has agreed to testify, but she wants to see you first. Asterisk. I replied. Asterisk. Organize it for tonight. Asterisk. Just as I put away my phone, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Olivia. I turned around. It was Chloe, far from her usual glamorous appearance. Today, she wore no makeup. Her eyes were swollen, and she had a hospital visitor wristband. What do you want? I asked coldly. Chloe bit her lip and suddenly made a deep bow. I'm sorry. I didn't help her up. I observed her performance in silence. I know it's late to apologize. She straightened up, her eyes full of tears. But I understand everything. My father in the hospital, my brother obsessed with getting revenge on you, the company on the verge of bankruptcy. It's all my fault. Get to the point. I cut her off. Chloe wiped her tears. I know some things about my brother and Sterling. Maybe they'll be useful to you. I arched an eyebrow. Oh, really? They don't just want the Hudson Gateway project, she lowered her voice. Sterling wants to use my brother to control the entire Caldwell Industries. My heart skipped a beat, but I maintained my composure. Continue. I heard them talking, she said, nervously looking around. Sterling said what happened 20 years ago was just the beginning, that he was going to completely destroy your father's reputation. I narrowed my eyes. And why are you telling me this? Tears flowed again. Because I'm scared. My brother has gone crazy. He doesn't even care about my father's life anymore. Olivia, I just want to protect my parents. I studied her swollen eyes and trembling hands, weighing the veracity of her words. Finally, I gave her one of my cards. If you remember anything else, call me. Chloe took the card as if it were treasure, made another bow, and hurried away. Watching her leave, I was thoughtful. If what she said was true, Sterling's goal from the start wasn't the project, but the entire Caldwell Industries, and Damon was just a pawn in his hands. As I pondered, my phone rang again. It was my father. Olivia, come back to the office immediately. His voice was very urgent. Sterling has started buying our shares. A chill ran through me. How many? He has already exceeded 5%, and he keeps buying. My father's voice sounded hoarse. He's running the market up. Our shares have already risen 15%. I'm on my way. In the Caldwell Industries boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. My father and several key executives surrounded a giant screen showing real-time stock quotes and trading data. Sterling is buying through 3 shell companies, the CFO pointed out. He already controls 5.3% and has spent at least $1.2 billion. Where did he get so much cash? I frowned. My father smiled bitterly. He's allied with Temasek of Singapore and Blackstone of the United States. It's a joint operation. I held my breath. Temasek and Blackstone were global investment giants. If they were involved, activate the poison pill immediately. I made a quick decision. The poison pill was a defense strategy against hostile takeovers, consisting of issuing new shares to dilute the buyer's stake. There's no time. My father shook his head. We need at least 3 days for the board to approve it. And the White Knight? I looked at the president of the pension fund, an old friend of my father. He shook his head. The new government regulation makes it difficult for us. Public funds cannot intervene in private company disputes. The room fell silent. Sterling's offensive was much fiercer than we had anticipated. At this rate, in less than 3 days, he would control more than 10% of Caldwell Industries, becoming the largest shareholder. "Dad," a question occurred to me. "Why is Sterling so obsessed with Caldwell Industries? Is it just competition?" My father's face subtly changed. He didn't answer. "It's because of the mine accident, isn't it?" I insisted. My father sighed deeply. "It's not just that. Sterling and I have an old feud. It turned out that 20 years ago, after the accident, my father broke his partnership with Sterling. My father left for New York to start anew, and Sterling stayed in West Virginia. Later, Sterling had his operating license revoked due to repeated accidents, and he always believed my father was behind it. So this is revenge." I understood. My father nodded. "He's been waiting 20 years for this moment." I clenched my fists. All the more reason not to give up. "Gentlemen," I turned to the executives, "I have an idea." 2 hours later, Caldwell Industries issued a statement. It would spin off its most profitable asset, the Hudson Gateway project, into an independent subsidiary and seek strategic investors. This meant that even if Sterling gained control of the group, he wouldn't get its crown jewel. Following the announcement, the group shares fell 8%. The cost of acquisition for Sterling soared. "Well thought out," my father said, nodding in approval, "but this is just to buy time." I looked thoughtful. If I could find a weak point for Sterling. Just then, Allison called. "Olivia, bad news. Ashley has disappeared." "What?" My heart skipped a beat. "How?" "She was on her way to meet you tonight. A car cut her off. Men in black took her." Allison's voice was urgent. "My men say they had weapons. They couldn't do anything." A terrible idea crossed my mind. Sterling or Damon? "We checked the cameras, but the car had fake plates," Allison added. I immediately called Chloe. "Where is your brother?" "No, I don't know." Her voice trembled. "He hasn't come to the hospital since last night." "Olivia, what's going on?" I hung up without answering. If Ashley fell into Sterling or Damon's hands, the consequences would be dire. "Dad, I have to find Ashley." I turned to him. "She's the key witness." Just as my father was about to speak, his secretary rushed in. "Sir, it's terrible. Fox News just reported that you were involved in the cover-up of the West Virginia mine accident 20 years ago, where 7 miners died. The prosecutor's office has already requested an explanation." My father's face turned ashen, and he slumped into the chair. I opened my phone. The most searched headline was, *Caldwell Industries, President covers up mine accident. The news not only detailed the accident, but also published the list of covered-up fatalities and testimonies from their families. And the worst part? In less than 10 minutes, Caldwell Industries shares plummeted 12%, triggering a trading halt. "Sterling," my father murmured. "He wants to destroy me." I grabbed his trembling hand. "Dad, calm down. We'll issue a statement saying they are slanders and that we are investigating." "It's useless." He smiled bitterly. "If he dared to publish it, it's because he has evidence." My phone rang again. Unknown number. "Olivia." It was Sterling's grave voice. "Do you like my gift?" I suppressed my rage. "Sterling, kidnapping Ashley is a crime." "Kidnapping?" He chuckled. "I don't know what you're talking about. But if your father is willing to talk, I'll be delighted." "Talk about what?" "Simple." His voice was nonchalant. "If he resigns from Caldwell Industries and sells me his shares, I will make sure the mine accident remains buried forever." I trembled with anger. "Not in your dreams." "Don't rush," he said calmly. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'll wait for your father at my private club in Manhattan. After that hour, there will be no more opportunities." The call cut off. I looked at my father. He had aged 10 years in an instant. "Olivia," his voice was hoarse. "I think we've lost this time." "No," I gritted my teeth. "It's not over yet. If we find Ashley, she can testify against Sterling and Damon." "And then?" He smiled bitterly. "The accident is real. The 7 lives are real. Sterling is right. It's a debt I have to pay." Seeing my father's face gray and defeated broke my heart. The past had become Sterling's most lethal weapon. "Dad." I took his hand. "We have one last option." "What?" "Confess." I looked him in the eyes. "You were not the main person responsible for the cover-up. You only knew about it and didn't report it. If you voluntarily cooperate with the investigation and compensate the families, the penalty will be much lower." My father was silent for a long time. "And the company?" "Leave it to me," I said firmly. "I will protect Caldwell Industries' key assets." My father sighed deeply and finally nodded. At that moment, the office door burst open. It was Allison, breathless. "I found her. Ashley is in an abandoned warehouse in New Jersey." I jumped up. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely," she nodded. "She secretly sent her location. The signal was weak, but enough to triangulate her position." "Did you call the police?" "Not yet." Allison hesitated. "If there's a mole in the force," I made an instant decision. "Call the bodyguards. We're going ourselves." "It's too dangerous," my father stopped me. "If they have weapons—" "Dad, it's our only chance." I pulled free from his hand. "Ashley is the only person who can prove Sterling and Damon's conspiracy." My father tried to stop me, but I had already grabbed my jacket and was running out of the office with Allison. In the elevator, Allison handed me a miniature recorder. "Take this, just in case." I took it and put it in an inside pocket. "Call the lawyer. If you don't contact me in an hour, tell him to notify the police immediately." Leaving the building, the sunset painted the sky blood red. I looked at the Caldwell Industries logo and swore silently. "Sterling, Damon, did you think you could sink us? It won't be that easy." The night in the outskirts of New Jersey was eerily silent. Our car stopped in a forest a mile from the warehouse. We turned off the engine and lights. "Are you sure it's here?" I whispered. Allison nodded, pointing a red dot on her phone. "The location points to that corrugated iron-roofed warehouse. I count at least 10 guards in black patrolling the perimeter. The bulges on their belts suggest they are armed. We have to find a way to distract them," I said thoughtfully. While we deliberated, a black Mercedes pulled up and stopped in front of the warehouse. The door opened, and a familiar figure got out. "Damon?" Allison cursed in a low voice. "What is he doing here?" I observed him. He looked haggard, his suit wrinkled, his hair disheveled. A guard approached him, said something, and Damon nodded before entering the warehouse. "It's our chance." I opened the door. "While they're distracted with him, I'll enter through the back." "That's crazy." Allison grabbed me. "There's no other option." I pulled free. "Ashley is our only witness. I have to get her out of there." Allison gritted her teeth. "I'm coming with you." I shook my head. "You stay here. If I don't come out in 30 minutes, call the police." Without giving her time to reply, I slipped into the darkness. At the back of the warehouse, there was a small window about 6 feet from the ground. I stacked some abandoned bricks and managed to reach the sill. Through the dirty glass, I saw that it opened into a storage room full of junk. The window was unlocked. I carefully opened it, checked for alarms, and slipped inside. The storage room led to a dark hallway. I moved along the wall, holding my breath. I heard voices in the distance. I crept closer, guided by the sound. "Mr. Sterling said she has to sing before dawn." It was Damon's anxious voice. "Boss, that chick is tough," another man replied. "We knocked her out twice, and she won't spill the beans." "Useless," Damon shouted. "I'll do it myself." I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly hid in a shadow. Damon and 2 guards walked past and entered a room at the end of the hall. I waited for them to move away and stealthily followed. The door was ajar. Through the crack, I saw Ashley tied to a chair. Her face was bloody, and one eye was so swollen she couldn't open it. Damon threw a bucket of water in her face. Ashley woke up suddenly, terrified. "Last time I asked you," Damon said, grabbing her chin, "where are the copies of the papers?" Ashley weakly shook her head. "No, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," he slapped her. "Sterling told me you photographed everything in the safe box." Ashley spat on the floor. "There's nothing." Damon, out of control, pulled a pocket knife. "I see you need an incentive." The tip of the knife grazed Ashley's cheek. She let out a desperate whimper. I couldn't take it anymore. I kicked the door open. "Damon!" Everyone froze. Damon looked at me, eyes wide, in disbelief. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" "Let her go," I shouted. Damon reacted and let out a scornful laugh. "Well, how convenient. I'll kill two birds with one stone." Two guards lunged at me. I tried to run, but they grabbed my hair and slammed me to the ground. I screamed in pain. My head hit the concrete, and everything became blurry. Damon approached and looked down at me. "Olivia, you walked right into the trap." I endured the pain and glared at him. "Damon, kidnapping is a serious crime. The minimum penalty is 10 years. "Ha ha ha," he laughed like a maniac. "And who's going to tell? You or her?" He pointed to the nearly lifeless Ashley. I struggled to sit up. "Do you think Sterling is going to protect you? How naive. As soon as this blows up, you'll be the first one he sacrifices." Damon's laughter stopped. "What? What nonsense are you talking about?" "It's not nonsense," I smiled coldly. "Sterling made you embezzle funds, keep a mistress, steal documents, and now he asks you to kidnap and kill. You do all the dirty work while he keeps the money." Damon's face changed. The knife in his hand trembled. "Shut up. How much is the Hudson Gateway deposit worth? 10 billion? 20 billion? I continued provoking him. "And how much do you get? 500 million? A billion? 2 billion? Damon blurted out and instantly realized his mistake. The embarrassment turned to anger and he raised the knife. "You're pumping me for information." I looked him in the eyes. "Damon, wake up. Sterling will never give you that money. He hasn't even paid Ashley the $2 million he promised her." That seemed to hit a nerve. He lowered the knife, looking confused. "Boss, don't listen to her," a guard intervened. "Mr. Sterling will keep his word." "Shut up," Damon exploded, hitting the wall. "Everyone out. I need to talk to her alone." The guards looked at each other and left. Damon closed the door. "Olivia, how much do you know?" I slowly stood up, leaning against the wall. "Enough for you and Sterling to rot in jail." Damon was silent. Suddenly, he slumped onto a crate. "Sterling deceived me." I waited for him to continue. At first he only wanted a cut of the project. He grabbed his head, then he told me about the deposit, and then he lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot. "He forced me to falsify your psychiatric report. He wanted to control you, and through you, Caldwell Industries." A chill ran through me. Sterling's goal was never the project. "Ashley was his operative too, wasn't she?" I asked. He nodded. "A spy he trained to get information." I didn't know. I looked at Ashley. She nodded weakly, confirming the story. "And now Sterling wants to silence all of you." I laughed coldly. Damon's face turned ashen. "He said if I found the copies of the papers, he would let us live." "And you believe him?" I retorted. "Damon, your father is in the hospital. Do you think Sterling is going to forgive your family?" Damon trembled. Suddenly, he knelt. "Olivia, help me. I was wrong. I admit it." Seeing him crawling like that brought a mix of emotions. The arrogant man I knew was now pleading for his life. "I can help you," I said slowly, "but with 2 conditions." "Anything." He clung to my pants. "First, release Ashley and let her testify. Second, give me all the evidence you have of your dealings with Sterling." Damon hesitated. "No buts," I said harshly. "It's your only chance." He gritted his teeth and nodded. "Agreed. The evidence is at Sterling's club, in his Manhattan office safe box." My heart skipped a beat. The same place where Sterling had cited my father. "I don't know the combination," he said, "but I saw him open it with his fingerprint." With the fingerprint. That complicated everything. Suddenly, we heard a commotion outside. Damon's face changed. It must be Sterling's men. I made a decision. "Untie Ashley. We have to get out of here." Damon untied her hastily. I helped her stand up. She was so weak she could barely support herself. "Through the back door, the warehouse window," Damon pointed. Just as we reached the hallway, the main door burst open. A rough voice shouted, "Where are they? The boss said neither of them alive." We froze. Damon's face was pale as wax. "It's Sterling's chief hitman. Run." I helped Ashley toward the storage room. We heard footsteps and shouts behind us. Damon helped me get Ashley through the window, but he stayed inside. "Aren't you coming?" I asked, surprised. He shook his head. "I have to stop them. Olivia, I'm sorry. I hadn't expected that. I was speechless. The footsteps were getting closer. Go. Damon pushed me. I fell out of the window. I saw Allison arriving with the police. They're here, Allison shouted, pointing to me. The police surrounded the warehouse. I dropped to the ground, gasping. Ashley was already being attended to by an ambulance crew. Are you okay? Allison ran to hug me. I shook my head. Damon is still inside. Barely had I finished the sentence when we heard shots and sounds of a struggle. Minutes later, the police brought out several men in black. Damon was carried out on another stretcher with a bloodstain on his chest. How is he? I asked a police officer. He has a bullet wound, but his life is not in danger, he replied. We managed to arrive in time thanks to him distracting them. I didn't hear the rest. Tears blurred my vision. The man I had hated so much had ultimately saved my life. Back at Allison's apartment, a hot shower couldn't shake the cold from my body. Damon's words echoed in my head. Asterisk, the evidence is in the safe box in his office. Asterisk, don't even think about it, Allison exclaimed when she heard my plan. Infiltrate Sterling's club? Are you crazy? It's our only chance to prove his guilt, I said firmly. It's suicide. Allison paced nervously. What if you get caught? I won't. I turned on the computer and showed the club's floor plan. Tomorrow, Sterling meets with my father at 10 a.m. Between 9 and 10 a.m., he'll be there preparing. That's my window. And how will you get in? I pointed to the plan. There's a service entrance. The shift change is at 8:30 a.m. I'll sneak in with them. And then? Sterling's office will be guarded. I bit my lip. I'll need a distraction. You will create a ruckus to draw the guards away. Allison, seeing she couldn't convince me, sighed. At least wait for Ashley to wake up and give us more information. The hospital reported that Ashley was out of danger but needed 24 hours of observation. Damon remained unconscious after the operation. Before dawn, I convinced Allison. We rehearsed every step of the plan, prepared contingencies, and even established a keyword. If I'm not out by 10:30 a.m., I handed Allison a USB drive. Publish this evidence. Allison took it, her eyes red. Be very careful. Early in the morning, I put on a waitress uniform, a wig, and glasses. With a fake ID, I blended seamlessly with the club staff. The interior was excessively luxurious. Keeping my head down, I helped prepare breakfast. At 8:50 a.m., Sterling appeared, followed by 2 bodyguards. Have the Caldwell Industries people arrived? He asked the maitre d'. Not yet, sir. The appointment is at 10 a.m. Sterling nodded. Have them go straight up to my office and prepare me the best tea you have. Right away, sir. Sterling went upstairs. I took the opportunity to hide in the restroom. When the hallway was clear, I headed for the office. As expected, there was a guard at the door. I hid in a corner and sent a message to Allison. Seconds later, a loud noise and an alarm sounded at the main entrance. What's going on? Asked one guard. Go see, said the other. I'll stay. One of the guards rushed downstairs. One remained. I gritted my teeth and emerged from my hiding spot. Who are you? The guard asked, alert. The gentleman requested his tea, I said, showing the tray I had grabbed from the kitchen. The guard frowned. He didn't tell me anything. Just then, his walkie-talkie sounded. Asterisk intruder at the main entrance. Need backup? Asterisk. The guard hesitated and finally let me pass. Quickly. I entered the office, my heart pounding at 1,000 beats. The room was spacious, with a wall of bookshelves and another of glass. In the center, a mahogany desk. Where was the safe box? I found it embedded in the wall behind a bookshelf, a fingerprint lock. I put on the transparent gloves I had prepared. They were from Damon's hospital room. I hoped they had his print. The first attempt failed. A soft warning beep. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. I tried another finger. No luck. Last chance. I took a deep breath and tried the thumb. With a click, the safe opened. Inside was a folder and several USB drives. I took a quick look. The folder read, Asterisk, WV, mine accident. Asterisk. Inside was not only the investigation report from the time, but also a photo. In it, a young Sterling posed next to another man in front of the mine. The man looked incredibly like my father, but it wasn't him. With no time to lose, I photographed all the documents. I saw a small black notebook. I opened it. It was Sterling's secret ledger, detailed records of bribes to officials. Amounts, dates, locations. The definitive proof. I quickly photographed all the pages and put everything back in place. Just as I was about to leave, I heard footsteps outside. I froze. There was nowhere to hide. The doorknob turned. At the last second, I rolled under the desk. "Sir, the Caldwell Industries people have arrived." It was the guard's voice. Sterling was in the room. I could smell his cologne. "Take them to the meeting lounge. I'll be down right away." The footsteps moved away. I waited a few seconds and crawled out of my hiding spot. I slipped out of the office. The hallway was empty. I headed for the service entrance. Reaching the stairs, I collided with a waitress. "Hey, aren't you the new girl from the kitchen? What are you doing here?" she asked, puzzled. I lowered my head, mumbled an excuse, and quickened my pace. Behind me, I heard her shout, "Wait, you're not the new girl." I ran with all my might. I heard footsteps and shouts behind me. I ran down the stairs, rounded several corners, opened an emergency door, and emerged into the back garden. "Catch her!" I ran toward the wall. I jumped onto a dumpster and scaled it. As I fell to the other side, I felt a sharp pain in my ankle, but I didn't stop. Limping, I reached the car we had parked. Allison was already waiting. She started the car as soon as she saw me get in. "Do you have it?" she asked tensely. I nodded, panting. "Drive, to the office." In the rearview mirror, I saw several men in black emerge from the club, but it was too late. Back at Caldwell Industries, I uploaded the photos to the computer. My father and several lawyers were already waiting. Seeing Sterling's ledger, my father was speechless. "With this, we can charge him with bribery," the lead lawyer said, excited. "And with these records of market manipulation and insider trading, there's more." I opened another photo. "Look, it's the transcript of a secret conversation between Sterling and another person. The detailed plan to trap Caldwell Industries, how to bribe Damon, how to infiltrate Ashley, even how to use the 20-year-old accident to attack my father." "That damn animal!" My father trembled with rage. "Dad," I grabbed his hand. "Now we have evidence, but we don't have time. Sterling will realize soon. We have to act first." He nodded. "What do you propose?" "Call a press conference and publish everything," I said firmly, "and at the same time, denounce him to the police for conspiracy, kidnapping, and bribery." "And Ashley?" Allison asked. "She's the key witness. What does the hospital say?" "She woke up. She agreed to testify." Allison checked her watch. "But she's very weak." "It doesn't matter. This evidence is enough." I turned to my father. "Dad, contact the main media. I'll organize the material." My father and the executives left to prepare. Allison and I were left alone. "Olivia," Allison hesitated. "What do you plan to do about Damon?" I remained silent. "There was a time when I wanted to destroy him. Let the law decide," I finally said. "If he cooperates as a protected witness against Sterling, we could consider a reduced sentence." Allison nodded. "Oh, by the way, did you see the photo of Sterling and the man who looked like your father?" "It wasn't my father." I shook my head. "He looked similar, but it wasn't him." "How strange." Allison frowned. "Then why?" My phone rang. Unknown number. "Olivia." It was Sterling's somber voice. "Do you think that by photographing my papers, you can sink me?" A chill ran through me. How did he find out so quickly? "Your father killed 7 people 20 years ago," he laughed coldly. "What do you think the press will say when they find out he also killed his own brother?" "What?" I felt like I had been struck by lightning. "What nonsense are you talking about? Ask your father." And he hung up. I stood there, my mind blank. My father's brother? I had never heard of him. "What's wrong?" Allison asked. I shook my head and called my father. "Dad, Sterling just called. He said you killed your own brother." "What does that mean?" There was a long silence. Finally, I heard my father's old, tired voice. "Olivia, there are things that the time has come to tell you." The air in my father's office was dense. With trembling hands, he pulled an old photo album from his safe. He opened a page and pointed to a black and white photo of two smiling young men in front of a mine. The one on the left was clearly my father. The one on the right was almost his exact replica. "That's my brother, Adam Caldwell," my father said, his voice cracking. 2 years younger than me. He was impulsive, passionate, loyal. "I never knew I had an uncle," I said, a lump in my throat. "In the mine accident." He closed his eyes. "I was Sterling's partner, and Adam was a foreman. The day of the accident, he was off work, but he was the first to enter to rescue his colleagues. He pulled out 5 miners before the gallery collapsed a second time. He and 7 other miners were buried. Sterling was the safety officer. To avoid responsibility, he bribed officials and covered up the actual number of dead. He listed Adam and 2 other miners as missing. I felt chilled. "So that's why Sterling said my father killed his brother? And you did nothing to clear his name?" Tears rolled down my father's cheeks. Caldwell Industries had just been founded. I was a coward. I hugged him. I felt shattered. That was the real reason for Sterling's revenge. "Dad, it wasn't your fault," I wiped his tears. "But now we're going to get justice for Uncle Adam." My father lifted his head. "What do you plan to do?" "The press conference is still on," I said firmly. "We won't just expose Sterling's crimes, we'll tell the truth about the accident." "But, Olivia, Adam's honor." "Uncle Adam was a hero," I grabbed his hand. "He saved 5 people. He deserves to be remembered, not forgotten." My father was silent and finally nodded. I went out and called Allison. "Can Ashley attend the press conference?" "The doctor says yes, but in a wheelchair." Allison paused. "Olivia, breaking news. Sterling is moving his assets. It looks like he's preparing to leave." A chill ran through me. "Move the press conference up to 3 p.m. this afternoon. We can't wait any longer." "Will we have time?" "We'll have to." I gritted my teeth. "Have you contacted the police?" "Yes, but they need more evidence to arrest him." I smiled coldly. "Then we'll give it to them." At 2 p.m., the auditorium of the convention center was packed. In the waiting room, Ashley, pale but determined, waited in her wheelchair. "Ready?" I asked her. She nodded. "Olivia, I'm sorry, and thank you. Today begins your new life," I told her. My father approached, impeccable but exhausted, everything prepared. I looked at the clock. "Any news from Sterling?" "He booked a flight to Singapore for tonight," Allison said. "You won't escape. The police are waiting outside, but they need solid evidence." I nodded and pulled out a USB drive. "Here is everything: bribes, money laundering, market manipulation, and a recording of Sterling's plan to sink us." "A recording?" Allison's eyes widened. "From last night." I smiled. "Damon gave it to me. He woke up and confessed that he had recorded several of his conversations with Sterling." My father held his breath. "Damon helped us?" "To get a reduced sentence," I said. "He'll get out of bed to testify at the press conference." At 2:50 p.m., we were notified to start. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the podium. "Thank you for attending," I said bluntly. "Today, I am going to reveal a massive corporate conspiracy and the truth about a mine accident covered up for 20 years. The auditorium went silent. I pressed the remote control. On the screen appeared the transcript of a conversation between Sterling and Damon. Asterisk. "There is a rare earth deposit on the Hudson Gateway lands, worth at least $20 billion. Get Damon to approach Olivia by any means necessary." Asterisk. The public murmured. I continued presenting evidence. Sterling's ledger, the money laundering flowcharts, the stock manipulation records. Finally, my voice cracking, I played a special recording. In it, Sterling said smugly, "Adam Caldwell, that idiot, risked his life for a few miners, and his brother is even more of an idiot, letting his brother's memory be tainted to protect his company." Asterisk. The auditorium erupted. My father cried beside me. "Mr. Sterling," I looked into the camera, "you have not only committed corporate crimes, but you have covered up the truth of an accident that cost 8 lives, including that of my uncle Adam Caldwell, a hero whom you turned into a missing person." I gestured. The back door opened. 2 police officers escorted Damon. Damon Vance will testify as a protected witness against Victor Sterling, I announced. Damon concisely recounted how Sterling had ordered him to approach me, steal secrets, and falsify documents. Finally, Ashley came onto the stage and told her story as an industrial spy, her kidnapping and the threats. With this evidence, I said, returning to the center, I formally accuse Victor Sterling of bribery, money laundering, corporate fraud, and kidnapping, and I demand the reopening of the West Virginia mine accident investigation to restore the honor of the victims. At that moment, the back door burst open. It was Sterling, flanked by 2 bodyguards. "Lies!" Sterling shouted. "Olivia, you falsified the evidence to frame me." I smiled coldly and pressed the remote control. On the screen appeared a video of Sterling meeting with the deputy director of the SEC, counting wads of bills. "This video was recorded last night at your private club." I looked at him. "Would you like me to play more?" Sterling's face turned ashen. He tried to flee, but the police detained him. "Victor Sterling," the inspector said, showing a warrant, "you are under arrest for multiple economic crimes." When the handcuffs snapped shut, the auditorium erupted in applause. As they led him away, Sterling looked at me with deep hatred. The press conference ended. My father and I called an emergency board meeting to stabilize the shares. The police searched Sterling's properties, finding overwhelming evidence. A week later, Ashley was sent abroad under protection. Damon, for his cooperation, was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Vance Construction filed for bankruptcy. Chloe went from being a rich girl to an office worker in a small company. Sterling was charged with 12 felonies involving an amount of $3 billion. And most importantly, a special investigation commission was created to reopen the mine case. A month later, my father and I traveled to West Virginia. At the accident site, we erected a monument in honor of my Uncle Adam and the other victims. "Adam, I'm sorry," my father cried, caressing the engraved name. "I finally did you justice." I left a bouquet of flowers at the foot of the monument. The mountain wind blew like a response from the beyond. A year later, under my direction, Caldwell Industries not only overcame the crisis but absorbed the key assets of Sterling and VC, doubling its stock market value. I created a foundation to help victims of industrial espionage, with Ashley as one of its collaborators. Allison's firm became one of the most prestigious in New York. Damon received a sentence reduction for good behavior. The day before he was released, he sent me a letter through Allison. In it, he detailed his remorse. It ended by saying, "I don't ask for your forgiveness, only that you know I truly regret it. If there were another life, I didn't reply, but I told Allison to offer him a job at the foundation. "Are you sure?" Allison asked incredulously. "After everything he did to you? Everyone makes mistakes." I looked out the window. "The important thing is knowing how to get back up." Allison shook her head. "You've changed, Olivia. You would never have forgiven betrayal before." I smiled. Yes, I had changed. Everything had made me grow. Hatred only brings pain. Forgiveness, perhaps, opens new possibilities. My phone rang. It was my father. "Olivia, the opening ceremony for the Hudson Gateway project is about to begin. Where are you?" "I'll be right there." I picked up my bag and left the office. The sun was shining, and the air smelled of spring. I took a deep breath and walked firmly toward my new life.